the long-awaited video is finally here. I know it's been like 3 months, but it's finally out. This is a spoiler review on Flashback, Shannon Messenger's newest book. This will, of course, include major spoilers, as I'm going to go over the whole book and analyze it. I'm also going to rant at some parts, and if you have read Flashback, then you know what I mean. If you haven't read Flashback, this is your last chance to leave because we are going to start. And quick disclaimer, this is a very detailed, full review of the book, so this video might run for a little longer than usual. Alright, so the book starts at ALVAR's tribunal. Basically, the council decided that they would have to wait 6 months to sentence him because his memory is gone. His 6 months will be served in Everglen, much to Fitz's dismay. Fallon Vacker, the former counselor, and Vacker shrouded in mystery, shows up and protests because he thinks that if ALVAR stayed at Everglen, he thinks that something is hidden there and that ALVAR is going to get it for the NEVERSEEN. Lucia Vacker, who plays a big role later on in the book, denies these claims because she was the original owner of the property and said that she just picked it because of the view. Keefe, Sophie, and Fitz seem to think otherwise. My favorite part of this scene is the deal that Keefe makes with Roe. Keefe says that if the tribunal is done early, Roe has to call him Lord Hunky Hair. Roe says if the tribunal lasts till sundown, then he has to wear ogre armor to school. The tribunal ends early and Roe calls him Hunky Hair. Fitz leaps away angrily. He doesn't like the decision because he doesn't trust ALVAR. Sophie finds him in a desert training ground. They talk and train, and it's revealed that Drizzle, and Sandor love each other. But all of a sudden, the NEVERSEEN show up. They fight, and Umber infects Sophie, Fitz, Grizzle, and Sandor with the Shadow Flux. Umber pops Sophie's knuckles out and overall tortures her. Without any other option, Sophie presses her panic switch, and Dex, Wiley, and their bodyguards arrive to save the day. Seeing that they are outnumbered, the NEVERSEEN make a deal, and then they both leave. But when they are talking, it is revealed that the caches that Keefe stole are fake. Devastated, they slink back to the healing center to recover. This encounter sets the scene for the next couple weeks in 300 pages. The Shadow Flux is stuck in Sophie's head, and some in her hand. Tam does his best to remove it, but some is still stuck. The echoes. Fitz has echoes near his heart, and he doesn't wake up for a long time. During all of this, Sandor starts to question his protecting abilities, and brings up the idea to Sophie to resign. Sophie convinces him otherwise, saying that she will be the worst charge to her new bodyguard, running off and pranking him. Sandor decides to stay. Sophie's echo brings her terrible nightmares, and Fitz's echo restricts his emotions, or his breathing slows, and his heart feels crushed. These both slow their recovery. All this time is spent learning Exilium tricks with Keefe. I kind of like that Fitz is here, but at the same time, Sophie is going to spend all this time with Fitz, who is still sleeping though. Next, they find out how the NEVERSEEN tracked them at the training grounds. Her Black Swan chain necklace Keefe gave to her before he blew up Foxfire. They talk, and Sophie brings up that she wants to fight back, but with real weapons, not just talents. Keefe agrees, and the rest of the Keeper gang starts training. By this time, Fitz wakes up, and when Keefe asks to go, then Keefe asks them to go all cognate on him, and find any buried secrets that he might contain in his mind. After a little while, they find a memory that was shattered, which means whatever this memory is, it was not meant to be recovered. In the memory, Keefe's mom is telling him to deliver a letter to someone in the human cities. We don't know who it is, but we know that whoever it was, Lady Gisela wanted to recruit them. They had a green door and they lived in London. Keefe remembers green eyes, which Sophie also says she saw in her dreams. Coincidence? Is it a human, or is it an elf disguised as a human living in the Forbidden Cities? We don't find out, but I hope we will in Legacy. It seems like a crazy plot twist. After a week, they finally get out the healing center, but they are still confined to Foxfire. They walk around at night and they bump into Tam. They find out he is still training with his new ability mentor, Lady Zilla. They are working on controlling the evil Shadow Flux in their sessions. Lynn is also there for emotional support and keeping him company. Fitz is allowed back home, such as injury/echo is not as severe or bad as Sophie's. At first, he refuses, and he wants to stay with Sophie until she is recovered. Bleh. Bianna visits, and Sophie convinces him to go back to his sister for support when ALVAR stays for 6 months. A couple days later, Mr. Forkle comes to see her, And after Ellen approves, Sophie, Dex, and Farkle light leap to meet a new member of the Black Swan. They meet one of the most reclusive members of the Black Swan. This member is named Tinker, and she's a technopath, which is why he brought Dex. They arrive in a giant building with a bunch of pipes, a waterfall, and a giant clock contraption, and a bunch of other techie stuff. They walk to the main entrance, and Sophie notices a lot of stuff, follows number 5. Tinker arrives from a hatch, and Sophie describes her with a throaty voice, lots of freckles, gray blue eyes, really tall, and an abundance of red curls. They follow her to the main laboratory, and another 5 thing related comes up. They talk, and the reason they come to Widgetmore is revealed. Mr. Farkle wants Dex to train with the Technopath every day after school, or as often as he can. Personally, I think this was just a way to get Dex out of the book, because this part and the end is really the only part that he's in. I really don't like that Dex book time has gone down. Mr. Farkle mentions that the main thing that they should be working on is figuring out how the catches are fake, and making weapons. Tinker objects, probably due to something that happened in the past with explosions, and maybe that's the reason she is wearing her strange disguise/suit. Tinker gives Sophie some gadgets she has created, fake fingernails that act as a force field for her enhancing ability, and a Null, which is a device that absorbs signals so the NEVERSEEN cannot track her. Another one of the inventions for Sophie includes a strength booster for her left hand, so essentially she is ambidextrous. They light leap back home. Time passes, and she is healed enough to be admitted back home, but when she meets her new bodyguard, she gets a surprise. Instead of 1 new bodyguard, she gets 4 more. Tarina the Troll, Flory the Gnome, Bo the Ogre, Nubidi the Dwarf. That was a crazy plot twist that I never expected, but I like how we get to learn a little more about the other species. Sophie and the troll, Tarina, converse in Tarina's language. Tarina proposes an alliance with her and the trolls. Surprised, Sophie says that she'll sleep on it. Sandor sets up a training dummy and secretly loads it with lushberry juice. Sophie nails it and freaks out when the blood pours out. I really like that technique because it prepares her for the real thing. Sophie realizes how unprepared she is, and because she screams and hides. Then, in my opinion, the worst part of the book. That's right, SOPHITZ. They take a walk one night around Evergreen, and then they find themselves in the reception room. Fitz says that they use the hall every couple years, and then the realization dawns on her. It's for winnowing galas. You know what this means. They talk about their feelings and crap, and then Fitz says, "I want it to be you." He's talking about the number 1 spot on his match list and blah blah blah. They almost kiss, but then SILVENY comes to the rescue and interrupts them before it happens. So the kiss doesn't happen, but you can tell that they like each other. I'm going to save the SOPHITZ and flashback rant for a different video, because it would just be too long for this one. So SILVENY's message was that she is in terrible pain. SILVENY was hurt or something, so they rush to tell the nearest bodyguard, who happens to be Tarina. Then Fitz levitates Tina for teleporting, and then they first teleport to tell Grady and Adeline, to the Animal Masters. All 5 of them teleport again, this time to SILVENY. It is revealed that she is in labor, but the bad news is that the birth is early by a month or so, probably like 3 weeks. They decide to get Vika Hex to help since she knows a lot more than them. So they light leap to their residence, and for some reason they bring Stina along to help. An examination happens once they calm down the alicorn with a sedative/calming thing, and they bring the news that SILVENY is giving birth to twins. Another plot twist that I did not see coming. The thing is that the twins are super early, so they aren't fully developed. So if they get through labor normally, they won't survive. Tarina proposes that her people can save the babies, but the catch is that Sophie has to agree to the alliance we mentioned earlier. Sophie thinks for a couple seconds before obviously choosing to join. Tarina continues to explain, and then we learn about the troll hives. Apparently, after troll babies are hatched, they are immediately moved into a hive. The hive is sort of like a mother's womb. Tarina's point is that if they move the twins into a hive pod, then they will survive. There are so many secrets revealed in this book, and another is that the trolls have an elf ally, and on her property is where the giant troll hive colony is stored. That's why Tarina made her swear on the alliance, because it would compromise the secret of the elven supporter. And a couple paragraphs later, the elf is exposed to be the one and only Lucia Vacker. They also learned that the old hive was at Everglen, but they had to move it to a bigger area. That explains why Lucia gave up Everglen. They rushed to arrange a transport pod for the babies. They leap to the Vacker's house, and Lucia explains that the only way for the plan to work is to make a separate private hive, just for the alicorns, because a mass hatching is going to take place soon. The newborns will not be safe with the trolls running around. The time it takes to make a separate hive is greater than the time the alicorns can survive a transport pod, so it will be slim. They find the current hive to take 2 pods and leap back to Sylvany just in time. The first twin is born and is placed inside one of the pods and sealed up. Same process for the next baby. Sophie calls Lucia for an update on the pod, and apparently the process is going smooth and it should be done soon. Lucia requests for 2 abilities, a flasher and a shade. They teleport to the tower, Lucia describes, and as soon as they recruit Tam and Wiley, they make a rough landing. Tarina goes off to patrol the forest and eliminate any threats. With her gone, they get a little paranoid and start to take out throwing stars, expecting another NEVERSEEN attack. This is where the cover scene is, if anyone is wondering. They hear a rustle, and Sophie flings the star while Tam and Wiley are trying to get the illusion to work. That's the cover. On the cover, you can see a little ripple in the forest where they took away the illusion to find the bridge to the tower. It is a little disappointing, because the rustle was only Tarina. Shocked, Sophie apologizes and then notices elven footprints that were not hers or anybody that they were aware of. The paranoidness intensifies. They call for backup because Sophie wants Sandor and all of the other bodyguards to sweep the forest as well. Tam and Wiley leaped home, their job done, and Sophie brings the guards to the tower. This happens in about 2 hours, and it's time for the babies to be implanted into the real thing. It works. It is a success. The newborns are safe and healthy. Sophie transmits to the alicorns, telling them that their son and daughter are fine. The next chapter is a couple hours after that scene, and opens with Greyfell and Sylveny laying together in one of Havenfield's many pastures, clearly exhausted. And then the worst happens. A SOPHITZ moment. Fitz was going to put his arm around Sophie, and then notices Grady and stops. I'm on Grady's side here. But Edeline, on the other hand, was giving them a lot of raised eyebrows and sappy smiles. The parents walk over and comment on them, and then, when they leave, Fitz says, "Wait until my parents find out about us." Geez, Fitz, take a chill pill. You didn't even ask her out, kiss her, or get matched with her. Fitz also says Biana ships them. Well, not those exact words, but you know what I mean. In her head, Sophie is contemplating what they are and if she likes it. She comes up with, "It's complicated," and she was terrified. Those are real quotes from the text. They conversate some more, and Fitz is all like, "There's no way we won't get matched," and he says, "You're brilliant and talented and beautiful." And then Sophie starts crying because no one has ever said that to her before. "Sophie, you don't realize that Keefe has said that to you more than once." Fitz leaves, thank God, but then Sophie approaches her and starts talking about it too. She says that Fitz is smitten with her. Guys, here's a very real quote from page 666 in Flashback. "We're not dating, we're waiting." See, they aren't dating. Edeline gives her a heads up that the council is coming to visit her to talk about Sylveny. Sophie denies any claims that another elf was involved and answers the questions with short, quick answers to avoid suspicion. The council makes a crystal to the pods, and then they leave. Sophie has a quick conversation with the new mother and assures her babies are safe and she'll visit them when she is ready, which could be weeks. Okay, then this is the best part. Sophie asks what will cheer Sylveny up, and she shouts, "Keefe, Keefe, Keefe." Then Keefe appears right behind her. Keefe fills her in on the bet that he lost with Ro, and so now Ro has one dare to use against him. I wonder what she will use it for. Then he brings up what I was thinking a long time ago, to name the babies. Keefe, of course, goes with jokes like Keeferina and the Keefster, but Sophie chooses Luna. Sylveny agrees, and the girl's name is Luna. Keefe chooses Win, and blah blah blah, the boy's name is Win. Keefe makes a joke and then stops, making Sophie realize that he is nervous. She changes the subject and asks how he knew where the alicorns were, and he says that Fitz told him. Fitz told him everything, including the SOPHITZ parts. Fitz was probably like, "Oh, by the way, I'm Sophie's boyfriend, and you're not, ha 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 ha." Keefe notices her mood shift, and she says, "I have no idea what you mean." Then he says, like the amazing friend that Keefe is to her, I know something's changed. He says that he was waiting and that he knew this would happen eventually. Then he makes the best jokes ever, and Sophie gets mad because it's true. Look at us, aren't we the cutest cognates ever? Let's stare into each other's eyes and do some trust exercises. Teal is my favorite color in the whole wide world, but nobody realizes why. He said that was mimicking Sophie's voice, so it's basically what I was thinking the whole time. You can tell he is really mad that Fitz got to her first, or that Sophie hasn't realized that he liked her way longer than Fitz did. You can tell that he is not happy for them, even when he says, congrats. Ro thinks that wasn't what he was really going to say, and then she says, maybe I should use my dare. She won a bet, and now she gets one dare for him. She was thinking to use it to make Keefe tell Sophie how he feels. Do it, was me in my head, but she doesn't when Keefe tells her not to, and that she isn't that mean. Then Belle breaks everything by saying that he and Ro are married. They learn a little more about ogre stuff, and blah 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 stuff happens, and then Sophie promises to never hate Keefe. Mr. Forkle stops by to talk to her, and she tells him all about the alliance. He hints that in the near future Sophie could become a member of the collective. Then he tells her that it's time that she goes back to school. This is almost like Harry Potter, when in the last couple books they aren't even in school. At lunch, he purposely sits opposite to Fitz not to create any gossip. They go to Ellen for a checkup, and the monster in her head gets the best of her. Dex and Tinker send out a new and improved panic switch, where you can now make a voice recording about what the enemy is or what to bring. Florrie made new clothes with more pockets, and the bodyguards train everyone. Then comes the part of the Alicorn flight art, on page 695. To cheer up Silveny, Sophie rides her, and Greyfell lets Lynn ride him. They flew for hours, and when she got home, there was a message from the Black Swan, saying that a meeting with Fintan was arranged. And at the end of the week, her and Fitz will talk to him. While waiting for Mr. Forkle to arrive, Fitz tells her that she needs a distraction. He got her another present. It's a teal-shaped heart necklace. He also says this, I figured it'd be weird letting my sister shop for you. He was going to say girlfriend. We went over this, Fitz. You're not her girlfriend. You didn't ask her out. You didn't get matched. And you just said, I like you, and gave her a necklace. Mr. Forkle finally arrives, and they light leap to Fintan's cell. Well, near his cell. The council is very cautious, so they have to walk through snow to get to the cave. It's really cold to prevent Fintan from sparking fire. The tunnel soon is only ice, and they can see their first glimpse of the traitor. Mr. Forkle points out while they can hear everything he says, Sophie would have to step in a certain spot for Fintan to hear her. He makes small talk with them, and then he gets down to business. Fintan says that he has crucial info on the NEVERSEEN's upcoming attack. He tells them to ask him a question, any question, to prove he isn't lying. Fitz asks if ALVAR is part of something bigger, and Fintan says no. That he cannot fulfill any assignments since we watched his memories. Sophie then asks what Lady Gisela was having Keefe do in London. His eyebrows shoot up, and he says that memory wasn't supposed to be recovered. What do you think it was? Leave your theory down in the comments. I would love to see what you guys think. He then says that Keefe's mom was probably trying to recruit a human. Do you believe him, or is he trying to cover up the truth? In exchange for the information about the NEVERSEEN, he wants to train MARELLA Redek. He wants to make her the person he never was. He gives Sophie a week to answer. Sophie says that she will only agree if he gives her the information he is hiding now. He says that the NEVERSEEN have something planned for the Celestial Festival and something to do with the ogres. There's about a week to the festival. They rush home to tell everyone, and I mean everyone. The entire collective, all the counselors, Alden, Luzia, and Ormvacker, Grady and Edeline, all the bodyguards, all of her friends except Marella. The main debate was whether or not to cancel the event. The argument for not canceling was, what if Fintan is lying, and this could be our chance to catch NEVERSEEN? And if we cancel it, we are telling people that we have no confidence in our ability to protect them. The argument for canceling it was, if we don't cancel it, we are putting thousands in danger. I think they should cancel. Sophie walks over to Luzia, who is being very quiet during the whole thing. They talk, and Sophie brings up that the eclipse for hatching and the festival is the same date. Foreshadowing much? Luzia also says that the festival will take place on the Prism Peaks. Sounds like a Lemony Snicket novel. Keefe approaches Sophie and they start talking. Sophie notices he is trying to get a reading of Luzia's emotions, but he failed. The only thing he got was that she was really worried. For what? We don't know. 5 hours later or so, they reach a conclusion for the Celestial Festival. It will continue as normal. They want to set a trap. They want to go talk to Marella, but they decide to go later. Sophie is transmitting to Fitz because she wants to talk to Keefe alone about his memory. Fitz wants to stay, but Sophie tells him to go. He finally leaves, and Ro mutters about time. From now you can definitely tell Ro ships Sokeefe. She fills Keefe in on the visit with Fintan. He gets all teary when she holds his hand, and B, she used her only question on him to ask about the London thing. She likes Fitz with her brain, but she loves Keefe with her heart. He says that not a lot of people care about him the way that she does, and she says that actually a lot of people do, including her. They light leap to Marella's house. Sophie admits that she has never been there before. She looks at the balcony, then to the hard ground, wondering how Caprice survived the fall. Marella spots them, and Sophie starts immediately. She repeats everything Fintan said and waits for her reaction. Marella is momentarily stunned, and then asks if that is even legal. Sophie responds by saying that she can get her there if she wants to. Marella agrees, saying, I have to do it. 6 days till the festival turns to 4, then 3, then 2. The gang gets together and Sophie's kind of paranoid. They counter her argument and then she brings up a point. Where else are we vulnerable? Fitz says Everglen since ALVAR is there. Dex gives him the ankle bracelet monitor so he can at least stun him if he is being suspicious. They make some more theories that the NEVERSEEN might be up to and make different plans to go with each path. One theory stood out to them, that the NEVERSEEN might somehow know the Alicorns were born and they might attack them. They tell this to the council and they agreed to move SILVENY to the babies, so if anything happens, SILVENY can contact Sophie telepathically. Mr. Forkle, disguised as Magnate Leto, leads a speech as the festival is later that night. We cut to the festival with Sophie admiring the blood moon. They split up into 2 groups to patrol and cover the perimeter. Luckily, Sophie and Fitz get split up. Keefe, Tam, Marella, Wiley, and the bodyguards went with Sophie because she was the bigger target. The rest went with Fitz. They had purple flares to signal something suspicious. 30 minutes goes by with nothing, and then the festival starts. Fitz transmits to Sophie to tell her that ALVAR is moving around Everglen. Sophie doesn't think that much of it. She tells Keefe to get his opinion, and he agrees with her. Fitz gets mad that Keefe agreed, and he says, well, that's convenient. Keefe is siding with you. I wondered why he'd do that. Here, Fitz is getting mad at Keefe because he is siding with her. He always gets mad that Keefe likes her and brings out his anger on her, which is why SOPHITZ would never work. On page 747, Fitz gets mad at Sophie for no reason. Has Keefe ever done that? They meet up with the other groups while ALVAR moves closer to Everglen's main gate. They decide to stun him, but the button doesn't work. Fitz, getting mad again, flings the tracker into the woods, and they teleport to Everglen after a couple seconds of thought. Fitz immediately tackles his brother and yells at him. ALVAR acts all innocent and says he isn't doing anything, but Fitz punches him in the head anyway, breaking something. He continues to beat him up before they stop him. ALVAR says he heard noises, so he came out to investigate, and he didn't do anything to the tracker. Fitz doesn't believe him at first, but then a voice from the darkness speaks to them, and it all comes crashing down. Gethin, Vespera, and the two other NEVERSEEN members emerge from the dark. Fitz goes for ALVAR again while Roy traps them in a force field. Dex, Wiley, and Tam try different tactics for taking down the barrier. Umber drags Tam's shadows to her so he cannot take the force field down. Keefe supports Sophie mentally with a calming breeze and physically as she goes down due to the echo in her mind. The Dark Rebellion reveals that Lady Gisela is at the festival waiting to initiate the second part of the plan. Umber sends which we'll go in depth on in a future video, Shadow Flux arrow at Biona, which Tam deflects. They also say that ALVAR is the key to their plan, which he quickly denies. The gang tries to decipher whether ALVAR is innocent or guilty with no luck. Then the NEVERSEEN tries to get FITZ to kill ALVAR, which he doesn't completely reject. They try to convince him that even if he is evil, killing him is worse than letting him get away. ALVAR groans and falls to the ground. Sophie pulls out a throwing star with pure determination, but that had never seen disappear. It was all an illusion. But the NEVERSEEN must be near since the force field was real. Rose smells a trail, and they all follow her. Then they realize ALVAR is gone. They figure out why the ankle bracelet wasn't working. It was because of the nulls Sophie was wearing. They rip it off of her, and Fitz gets mad at her again because she didn't come with him. Because if she didn't come with him when he was going to stun ALVAR, this wouldn't have happened. And Sophie feels tears forming from the look in Fitz's face. Come on, how does Sophie still like this guy? Then Keefe sends her a blue calming breeze again. Guys, seriously, how do you not ship Sokeefe? Listen to this quote. Sophie was tempted to keep everyone in the dark until she knew for sure, since it was only going to make Fitz hate her more than he already did. But she says it anyway because it is important. Sophie thinks ALVAR got his memories back when he groaned and fell. They are all shocked until she points out that the first time Vespera talked, ALVAR fell, so her voice was the trigger. Sophie continues to try and track ALVAR as they move around the woods. They find him near Everglen's front gate, and Diana seems to think that even though he got his memories back, he still might be good. They spot the NEVERSEEN by the gate, and they launch their attack. Sophie throws a star at ALVAR, but is blocked by a force field around them at the last second. Then a barrier around her and all of her friends appear, trapping them. ALVAR is holding Fitz's bloody bandage, which serves as his DNA to unlock the gate. He chose the dark side. They engage in small talk, hoping to create enough time for Tam and Wiley to break down the force fields. Sophie tries to convince ALVAR to keep the gate locked, but with little success. When she starts to talk about the family, he begins an outburst. He's not going back to the good side. He opens the gate on Vespera's command, and 4 giant ogres emerge from the ground, ready to kill. Keefe angers the biggest one, who is Catfell, Rose's ex-boyfriend. The crew is forced to drop all their weapons, but Sophie saves a couple in her hidden pockets. The barrier between them and the bloodthirsty ogres break away, leaving them defenseless. The NEVERSEEN lead them to another mystery location, and they telepathically scramble to make a plan. Nothing appears to work without an injury to one of the group members, but no idea is pushed away completely. As they arrive, Vespera slams an orb into the ground, removing the illusion and revealing a door. It is a hidden troll hive concealed for a long time. Vespera says Ormvacker told her this was here many years ago when she wasn't an outlaw. She explains it, and then Tarina cuts in saying the hive is still active and there is a mass hatching tonight. Troll babies are the deadliest as they age in reverse. Vespera really doesn't care, and she orders ALVAR to open it. They argue, but eventually he opens it. The trolls in there are modified to be more warrior-like when they are born. They appear inside. Something moves in the corner of Sophie's eye, and they rush to reseal the door. It's too late. The babies come streaming out the door, crushing Umber dead in the process. Everyone rushes back to the pile of weapons and tries to fight back. An ogre is killed, then feasted upon. The NEVERSEEN, minus Umber, defends themselves in a force field. Tarina and a newborn are fighting, and Sophie notices that Umber was killed, and Sophie sprints to help her bodyguard. They contemplate whether they should flee or stay. They stay. One troll escaped, with the other ogres on his heels for killing one of them. Tam launches an attack on the barrier protecting the NEVERSEEN, and it works. A troll notices the exposed members and attacks, but they leap away to safety, leaving the troll to Sophie and the crew. They fight the baby, but as it lunges for Tam, and Sophie throws a throwing star into his eye, the beast runs after Sophie. Keefe tries to distract it with no luck. Sophie continues to flee from the creature, and then Ro tackles the newborn from the side, saving her. Cadfael, Drizzle, Lovis, and Wolzer join her and Ro to survive. Sandor kills a troll that he was battling and raised the tooth in proof. They rush back to the hive where there is 5 babies left. Keefe almost knocks Sophie over with a gigantic hug. The bodyguards and Cadfael take over the situation, hunting down all the remaining trolls one by one. Keefe gives Sophie an update on the hive. ALVAR slipped into the hive and killed 4 newborns before they were even born. ALVAR is still at Everglen because of his ankle monitor, but 4 babies are dead. They meet up with Fitz and Bianca, and they cautiously enter the hive. Turns out, Bianca and Fitz trapped ALVAR in a cubby, not intending to kill him. Fitz pressed some random buttons, and it locked ALVAR with orange goo coming in, suffocating him. Fitz says he isn't sorry for killing his brother. Then Fitz mentally says to Sophie, once the goo set in, he stopped pressing buttons, knowing one of them would let ALVAR out. Sophie gets a little sick. They have to seal the hive with ALVAR trapped in there in an hour because the next batch of trolls will hatch. They think about the entire situation, and the good news was that nobody on the good side got hurt. Sophie is interrupted by SILVENY again, this time asking for Sophie, Keefe, and Tam to come quick. They teleport there. They arrive to Lady Gisela wearing a thinking cap to block Sophie's abilities. Lady Gisela aims and shoots a melter at Greyfell and SILVENY, but instead of shooting a blast, it covers them in soapordine. They crumple to the ground, and Sophie turns on her enhancing, and Keefe brings blue, calming breezes to prevent her from going crazy. Keefe's mom pulls out the antidote and tells everyone to back off, saying she will spray them all with it if they don't reach a conclusion. They talk, and eventually Lady Gisela says that she wants to trade the antidote for a new shade, since Umber died. They want Tam to join the NEVERSEEN. Then they erupt into another shouting match. Keefe's mom also reveals that the whole fight was broadcasted live at the Celestial Festival. Then Lady Gisela says that if they don't agree, then the alicorns will die, and then they will hurt or possibly murder Lynn. With the talk about hurting Lynn, Tam caves and agrees to join. He walks over to Keefe's mom and retrieves the vial of antidote, and then Gisela knocks him out and Light leaps away. They take the fallen antidote and get to work, and the family eventually wakes. They leave to Havenfield and explain their latest encounter with the NEVERSEEN. Then MARELLA breaks the news. When they went to check on ALVAR, he had escaped. He used the skills he learned while training with the NEVERSEEN to control his breathing and his body temperature. MARELLA said that Fitz freaked and that Sophie should check on her boyfriend. Sophie does deny that he's her boyfriend, but she doesn't confirm it either, even though they're not, but whatever. But she does mentally check on him. She fills him in on the antidote TAM-TRADE-OFF, but that only makes him more mad/sad. Then Florrie approaches her, saying that she finished her song to remove the echoes. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but Florrie was working on a song in Gnome that will remove or make the echoes fade away. Florrie sang her song as Sophie fell asleep after a long couple days. The next day, Sophie visits Everglen to do a checkup, this time on everyone. Everglen is getting more security, the hive is getting buried, and ALVAR's little apartment is demolished. A tribunal for Luzia was held, and the council investigated Orem, Alden, and Della too. Then they get the news that the alicorns are almost ready to hatch. Bianca approaches Sophie, and they start to talk about SOPHITZ. She says that Fitz liked her from NEVERSEEN, when they were staying together in a Louvre. Keefe liked her from Exile, or even earlier. They continue to talk about that stuff, and then they get into matchmaking. Then Sophie says this a couple days after. If I wanted to register for the match, how do I do it? Is there a process, or... Adeline says that if she wants to, she will take her to the matchmakers. Then they leave immediately to Atlantis. She has second thoughts about the process, but then she thinks of Fitz and she walks in. Ugh. She also wore a teal dress. Ugh. An elf named Sari meets her to take her to another pair of elves named Brisa and Juju. They ask her all kinds of questions, and then they ask her about her real parents, because the ones listed are her human parents. She replies that she never learned. They put it into the software, and after 5 minutes pass, the screen turns red. Sophie Elizabeth Foster is unmatchable. So guys, that was the whole book, and that's it for this video. This video was going to be really long, so I'm not going to include the SOPHITZ and Flashback Rain in this video, but in another one. I'm sorry if this video is a bit long, but I want to go all out on Flashback. If you watched to the end, comment what you want us to call you guys. For instance, Troy once called you our Elven Army, but I'm not sure if I like that. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I spent a few hours making this video, so leaving a like, subscribing, or commenting to let me know that you liked this video would be so appreciated. If you would like to be notified when the next few videos are going out, click the subscribe button and ding that notification bell. Again, please comment down below what you enjoyed about the video, and we will gladly respond. If you want to be an awesome person and donate to us on Patreon, you will become one of our patrons, and that will be amazing. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye!